Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're tackling a big one today, something you asked about. What really makes men attractive to women? We're digging into the science, especially around intellect and the standards of highly attractive women.
Yeah, it's a great question because honestly, there's so much myth out there. But the science, evolutionary psychology, big cross-cultural studies, it actually paints a picture. Attraction isn't simple. It's sophisticated, flexible, and really, really context dependent.
Right, context is key. So we're ditching the anecdotes and looking for the patterns. What's the main framework here?
It starts with something called sexual strategies theory, SST for short. The core idea is that humans don't just have one way of mating. We've got this kind of menu of strategies.
Like choosing between a short-term fling or something more serious, a long-term commitment.
Exactly. And which strategy you're playing heavily influences what you find attractive. It shifts things dramatically.
And that split, that comes down to basic biology, doesn't it? The difference in parental investment.
Precisely. For women, historically and biologically, the cost of making a poor choice, especially for a long-term partner, is just immense. Think pregnancy, nursing, raising a child.
Huge investment.
Right. So that biological reality has shaped female psychology to be highly selective, and it creates this fundamental trade-off when evaluating a potential mate.
The classic good genes versus good dad dilemma.
That's the one. So if the context is short-term, the focus tends to shift towards good genes, things that signal, health, genetic quality.
So physical stuff like symmetry, maybe muscularity.
Yeah, physical attractiveness, those kinds of cues. But if the context shifts to long-term, like finding a husband, the priorities flip.
So what takes over then?
Then it's all about the good dad or good provider traits. You're looking for signals of ability and willingness to invest resources and stick around.
Things like personality,
Stability.
kindness, dependability, stability, resource potential. Those become paramount.
And studies back this up, this split. Oh, absolutely. Research shows women prioritize things like upper body strength more for short-term partners, but for long-term, they'll often prefer someone described as, say, warm and homely over someone cold and attractive.
They'll actually trade off looks for warmth and resources.
Explicitly, yes. Which brings up a really interesting point.
What's that?
Well, a man can't just go all in on one strategy, right? Like focusing only on maximizing those good gene signals, maybe being super masculine or focusing purely on looks.
Does that backfire sometimes for the long-term goal?
It really can. Because sometimes extreme signals of, say, hypermasculinity or even just very high physical attractiveness can get linked, maybe subconsciously, with lower willingness to commit or even higher odds of infidelity.
Ah, so you signal great genes, but maybe also bad long-term bet.
Potentially. You might inadvertently signal you're not the high investment, secure partner type. It forces men to kind of balance their signals, build a portfolio.
That makes sense. And it leads us right into those socioeconomic signals, the good provider stuff. How does that ancient need for resources show up today? Especially thinking about intellect, which our listener asked about.
Well, this preference for a good provider, it's incredibly robust. It's basically universal. You remember David Buss's huge 1989 study?
It went across 37 cultures.
Right. In 36 of those 37 cultures, women valued good financial prospects more than men did. It seems deeply ingrained.
So fast forward to today. How does that translate? What are women looking for when they assess potential now?
In the modern world, the strongest cues for that resource potential are things like intelligence, ambition, education. These signal future earning power, competency.
So when women are attracted to intelligence, it's partly assessing that provider potential.
Often, yes. Subconsciously or consciously. They're looking at trajectory, ambition, industriousness. Women are often called potential seekers for this reason. It's not just about the bank account now, but the traits that predict future success.
And the data on this is pretty wild, isn't it? That study on online daters.
Oh, the 1.8 million dater study. Yeah, striking results. They found that resource acquisition ability for men, basically education plus income, boosted the romantic interest they received by 2.5 times the effects seen for women with similar boosts.
2.5 times. That's a massive difference.
It's huge. That 2.5x multiplier, that's the key thing for men to understand. Investing in your competency, your education, career, ambition gives you a disproportionately high return in the dating market. It's like a turbocharger for attractiveness.
It's a way to really move the needle, maybe more than other areas.
For men, absolutely. It's probably the primary way to boost overall mate value and maybe even compensate for perceived shortcomings elsewhere.
Okay, so competency is a major lever for men, but we know it's not just about resources or looks, especially for the long haul. Personality comes into play in a big way.
Oh, absolutely paramount for long-term relationships. The research consistently points to what you could call the big three personality traits.
And number one is
Consistently, number one, ranked above everything else, looks, money, you name it, is kindness and warmth.
kindness,
Yeah.
just basic human decency.
It signals safety, trustworthiness, willingness to invest emotionally. It's fundamental.
Okay, what are the other two?
Number two is intelligence, not just for provider cues, but also for mental stimulation, being interesting, being able to navigate life's complexities together.
Makes sense. And the third?
Honesty and dependability. Can you rely on this person? Are they trustworthy? That builds the foundation for a secure, long-term bond. Signal those three and you're signaling you're a good partner.
Let's drill down on one aspect of personality that reveals a lot. Humor. Everyone says they want someone funny, but the research gets specific, right? The type of humor matters.
Hugely. It's a great litmus test. The studies differentiate clearly. Affiliative humor, the kind that's witty, benevolent, used to connect and build rapport, that's highly attractive.
Because it signals good things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
High warmth, high social intelligence, desire to connect, all green flags for a long-term partner.
But then there's the other kind. Aggressive humor.
Right. Roasting, constant put-downs, biting sarcasm. That stuff is a major turnoff for long-term prospects
Why specifically?
because it signals high hostility and arrogance. And those are major aversion triggers. Women consistently report being strongly averse to men who come across as hostile, arrogant, but also unambitious, clingy, or overly moody. Your humor style reveals a lot about those underlying traits. Are you trying to connect or dominate?
Fascinating. Okay, let's loop back specifically to intellect, beyond just the provider angle. How is attractive intelligence actually perceived? Is it just about being book smart?
Not really, no. When you look at qualitative descriptions, attractive intelligence is more about being mentally stimulating, maybe passionate about something, having high emotional intelligence. It's not cold logic.
It's how you use it.
Yeah, the delivery matters. Can you engage someone, explain things without being condescending, have interesting conversations? That seems key.
Which brings us to that study on the IQ threshold. This idea of sapiosexuality, attraction to intelligence. It's not just more is better, is it?
Right. The Gignac study found it's curvilinear, meaning attraction does increase with IQ, but only up to a certain point.
Where's the sweet spot?
The peak attractiveness, according to that study, was around the 90th percentile IQ. That translates roughly to an IQ of 120. That seemed to be the ideal zone.
And then what happens? If someone's IQ is like super high, 135 plus blah.
Interestingly, desirability actually dipped slightly. It went down a bit.
Why would that be? Seems counterintuitive.
The researchers speculated that maybe beyond that point, the perceived costs start to rise. Perhaps it signals lower social or emotional intelligence, maybe difficulty relating, or it could even come across as arrogance if not managed well. It might become less relatable.
So very high intelligence could potentially signal social drawbacks. Interesting. Okay, final piece. The beautiful women factor. The listener asked what it takes to attract women who are themselves considered highly attractive.
Yeah, this gets into assortative mating. Basically, the idea that likes attract. People tend to pair up with partners who have a similar overall mate value.
So a woman's own attractiveness, her status, influences how picky she is.
Directly. Higher self-perceived mate value generally leads to higher standards. So yes, women considered highly attractive tend to be choosier. They might have heightened preferences for certain cues like facial symmetry, status, competence.
So to attract a high-value partner, you generally need to have a high mate value yourself across different areas.
That's the basic principle. But here's where it gets really interesting and actually quite actionable. It's something called the acquaintance moderator.
Okay, what does that mean?
The research found that this tendency to match based on looks assortative mating for physical attractiveness is strongest when couples meet and get together quickly.
Like online dating or meeting at a bar, the fast market.
Exactly. In those situations, looks and initial status cues are dominant because, well, that's all you have to go on initially.
But what if you don't meet that way?
Here's the kicker. That effect, the need to be closely matched on looks, it weakens significantly or even disappears entirely in couples who knew each other for a long time first. Like, they were friends first. The slow market.
Wait, really? So if you're friends first, looks become less important in the matching process?
Essentially, yes. It allows other traits, kindness, intelligence, humor, dependability, the time to emerge and potentially override initial differences in physical attractiveness.
That's huge. It means how you meet someone can fundamentally change the criteria for attraction.
It's a massive insight. It suggests your relationship strategy should consider the context of how you're meeting people. Personality gets a chance to shine in that slow market.
Okay, that's powerful. Let's shift to some immediate, actionable things. Controllable behaviors that science shows boost attractiveness right away. Forget cheesy lines. What about nonverbals?
Nonverbals are quick wins. Probably the most researched one is postural expansiveness,
Meaning?
adopting open, space-taking postures. Think uncrossed arms, relaxed shoulders, taking up a bit of room, not hunched or closed off.
And that signals confidence.
Confidence, yes, but also social dominance in a non-aggressive way, and psychological openness. It taps into deep signals of security and approachability. It's highly predictive of initial desirability in studies. Steady eye contact and just, smiling helps too. Positive effect.
Simple, but effective. Now, what about conversation? People stress so much about what to say.
Right, trying to be witty or impressive. But the research points somewhere else for the biggest impact. The single most effective behavior identified for building attraction in conversation is incredibly simple: asking follow-up questions.
Just asking questions.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more about X.
Exactly that, showing genuine curiosity about what the other person is saying.
Why is that so powerful?
Ah.
More than telling a great story or a joke.
Because it does something fundamental. It signals that you value the other person's perspective, that you're genuinely interested in understanding them. Feeling heard and validated like that creates a strong, positive emotional response. It makes the other person feel good, and they associate that good feeling with you.
You build attraction by making them feel important, not by trying to make yourself seem important.
Precisely. It shifts the focus and builds connection.
That's a perfect place to kind of synthesize all this. So wrapping up, the scientifically attractive man, especially for the long term, isn't some kind of caricature. He's someone who cultivates a well-rounded portfolio.
Right. Signals of being a good partner, that kindness, warmth, honesty, signals of being a good provider, the ambition, the competence, intelligence. And yes, maintaining good genes signals basic health, grooming, taking care of oneself. It's holistic.
And if you had to pick one area where men can get the highest return on investment in the modern mating market,
The data is really clear on this. It's investing in competency, education, career, ambition, that 2.5x multiplier we talked about. That's where men see the biggest payoff in boosting desirability.
so a final thought for you, our listener. We often think of attraction and love as these messy, irrational, purely emotional things, right? But the science we've looked at today shows there's actually this incredibly complex, logical, evolutionary structure underneath it all, shaped by ages of adaptive problems. What does that deep structure, that hidden logic, tell us about how we perceive our own reasons and choices when it comes to romance? Something to chew on.
Definitely food for thought.
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.